Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're joining us from around the world. Welcome to Web3 Warriors, episode 95, featuring one Montes, the creator of the Skull Hunters NFT project, an amazing friend and a longtime advocate of Web3 as well, from the community. Welcome, one. How are you doing today?
Dave, I'm good, man. Thank you for having me. I appreciate this for real.
I appreciate you joining. I'm really excited to learn more about the Skull Hunters project, and as well as yourself, and a little bit about your background and what your plans are into the future, because I know you're always kind of steady in the space, building, hosting spaces. having conversations about the technology, and that's what we're here for. So really grateful to have you here. And welcome everyone to Web3 Warriors. I'm your host, David Karoma, go by Chrome in the metaverse. And today we're going to be looking at really the concept of community building in Web3 and how NFTs and the blockchain are really giving creators new tools to be able to connect with their audiences, connect with their fan bases, and grow their fan bases and their communities in new and exciting ways that give them much more control over how they communicate with their fans, as well as much more opportunities for revenue and for support, both giving back and rewarding your fans and your community, but also, of course, getting the support from your community in the form of purchasing NFTs from you or other ways that they can connect with you even IRL after they've already kind of bought into the community. And that's what we've seen with the Skull Hunters. You know, they've done, Juan, you've done a lot of really interesting things around kind of having actual meetups in real life and hosting spaces. So I think that's what it's all about, and that's what we kind of lean on in the technology conversations that we have when looking at Web3, when looking at NFTs. It's really about collaboration over competition, right? And abundance over scarcity, and believing that we can do more and be more. So that's what we're here for. I also want to give a special shout out to my friends at VTA TV, Vita TV. They got a big event happening in New York on March 26th at the Sour Mouse. It's going to be really cool in collaboration with Decentraland Brazil. So I just want to give a shout out to them and the MetaMix and Bio, all the whole team out there really pulling together some pretty cool events that are integrating both the metaverse with IRL events, with the NFTs on chain and 3D wearable assets and virtual reality, XR, all that fun stuff. So just a special shout out to them as well, so I know they're building out for a cool event at the end of the month. And we're also looking at pulling together a really fun event for satellite event during NFT NYC, which is looking like it's going to be on April 3rd, also at Sour Mouse. So stay tuned for that. We're showing up in New York, and that's what it's all about, you know. And I know Juan is also joining us from New York after a brief trip to Puerto Rico. So appreciate you joining. And I definitely want to ask you a little bit about the scene in New York, because it seems to be definitely one of the areas in the world that actually has a pretty active NFT community, active Bitcoin community, crypto community, despite the regulators, you know, coming down hard on you out there in New York. So we'll have a chat about that as well. So yeah, to the theme of the show for today, you know, looking back at community building and NFTs, a recurring theme on Web3 Warriors that we always want to talk about, but I think the Skull Hunters and One has really taken a really interesting perspective on this. So we're going to get into it. I'm really excited for the conversation today. Thank you everyone who's joining us in the live chat. If you have any questions at all, please do chime in the live chat. Feel free. We always reward, you know, thought-provoking questions with maybe a free NFT if you're interested. We've got NFTs under the Web3 Warriors collection across multiple blockchains, Ethereum, Tezos, got some Solana. We even got one or two Bitcoin ordinals, but you know, that's a growing space. We'll see what happens there. But very cool. So please do share your thoughts if you have any thoughts in the chat. Appreciate you. So welcome, One. Glad you were able to join us. Maybe before we really dive into the Skull Hunters project, you know, could you give us a little bit of background on your creative background and what really brought you to Web3 prior to the blockchain projects that you're working on? And thanks again for joining.
Oh, of course. So, at the beginning of 2020, like right before the pandemic, I kind of found myself in like this really like creative surge. I used to draw and paint a lot as a kid, and then you know, I kind of just stopped to you know, pursue like my music and things that my musical endeavors. And you know, in late 19, early 2020, I kind of had this like surge of like creativity where I just like found myself like drawing and painting a lot. And you know, a friend of mine was like, you know, you should look into digital art and explore that option. And I picked up an iPad and an Apple Pen and kind of just started creating and you know, next thing I knew, I kind of had this body of work that I was building on, and I didn't know what to do with it. And a friend of mine had told me that I should look into putting my art on a blockchain, and I had no idea what that meant. So then another friend of mine was like, "Oh, well, you know, you should turn these into NFTs." I had no idea what that meant. So you know, after like a 6 to 9 month dive down the rabbit hole, you know, I was learning about NFTs, and the ironic part is that I was already kind of like crypto savvy. I had already like have been investing in Bitcoin and Ethereum So I was familiar with the crypto space. So the idea of selling my art for crypto, it just it made sense, you know. So I said, you know what, this might be something that I want to explore and look into. And I took my body of work, which is the Skull Hunter collection, put it on Ethereum. And, you know, fast forward 2.5 years later, you know, here we are.
Nice, nice. And I believe you say you have a bit of a musical background as well. Can you share a little bit about that? And did that impact kind of how you created the project for Skull Hunters at all?
Yeah, so well, it didn't necessarily impact the creative aspect of it, but I did want to look for alternative ways to like market and sell my music. And at the time, I didn't know about music NFTs when I was making the Skull Hunter collection. So you know, meeting people that were kind of savvy in the NFT space, and you know, meeting people like Kane and people like Low that were already putting their music on chain, just kind of like really inspired me to find, you know, ways to put my art and connect my art to the music. So I you know, making those connections, you know, in the beginning, all I thought was I thought NFTs were just JPEGs, right? You know, and then as you kind of like learn more about, you know, NFTs, it's like, no, it's not just a JPEG. It can be anything. An NFT can be, you know, it could be a picture, it could be a photograph, it could be music, it could be a soundbite, you know, anything can be an NFT. And then that concept kind of just opened up a whole different floodgate of ideas, right? Because now it's like, hold on a second, I can take my music and tokenize it. And so that was one of the things that I did as well.
And you've dove into that, the world of music NFTs and tokenizing your beats?
Yes. So what I did was, before I actually put any music out for sale, I did a giveaway for all of my my holders. So what I did was my first music NFT was actually a free claimable on Manifold. So anybody that owned the Skull Hunter was able to claim a free music NFT. All they had to do was pay the gas.
Nice, nice, nice. That's pretty dope. So that was kind of an early reward to the Skull Hunters holders. And
Yeah.
do you have any what kind of music NFT was it? Was it just a beat? And was there the opportunity for your community to maybe build out with the beat? And I want to give a shout out to K-Bot. I see you in the metaverse. We're hanging out in the Web3 Warriors headquarters in the Voxels metaverse. What's up, K-Bot? Appreciate you. Anyone signs the guest book, get some free wearables there at the Web3 Warriors headquarters in the Voxels metaverse. Feel free to drop in. Shout out K-Bot. But yeah, so your beat, tell us about it. Like, so you dropped it. It was a free claimable on Manifold. What are your thoughts?
So I dropped it as a free claimable. It's actually like it's a GIF file with kind of like this rotating skull that flashes and with lights, and you know, it's kind of like it. So it's very much a Skull Hunter NFT, but it has a 30-second music loop, and then anyone that owns the NFT is able to use the music for, you know, if they want to use it for promo purposes, if they want to use it for like an interview, you know, if they actually wanted like the actual extended beat, you know, they could reach out to me. I'll send it to them. So you know, I kind of gave them like not full open free domain, but you know, I gave them enough utility for you know, for a free claimable to be able to kind of like do what they will with it.
Yeah, that's dope. And obviously they give you credit for it, so it's still kind of building your name as well and kind of collaborating, right? It's basically open collaboration on the technology, right? Awesome, yes. Awesome. So we got the Skull Hunters up on the screen here. Definitely what pops out to me is a lot of interesting kind of nostalgic 90s cartoon references, you know. Shout out to Dragon Ball Z. I know the original creator just recently passed, rest in peace. You know, it's pretty awesome. But tell us about the Skull Hunters kind of mission and vision. What's the thought behind the project, and why have you kind of incorporated a lot of interesting nostalgic kind of art that might be recognizable to some of us?
So I kind of wanted to pull from source material that really kind of represented who I was, right? So a lot of these characters are characters that like resonate with me. If you look behind me, I don't know if you can see, there's an entire wall of Funko Pops, right? I'm a big Funko Pop collector. So I have, you know, throughout my entire office. I'll pan
You're
later,
one of
so
those guys. You're the one boosting up that whole economy, man.
Bro, I have like $3,000 worth of Funko Pops in this office. Like, they're just all over the place. I have an entire wall of Marvel, you know, an entire wall of Dragon Ball Z right behind me. These are kind of like my miscellaneous ones, but you know, I'm a collector, and I have this kind of like thing with pop culture and cartoon characters and, you know, things like that. So I kind of wanted to incorporate something that was very much who I am. You know, sometimes you see like PFP collections and they're you know, they grab these characters because I feel like it's almost like a quota, right? Like how many of these characters can we fit into this collection? But each, you know, with the Skull Hunters, each one of those characters has, you know, some type of connection to me, whether they were cartoons that I watched, whether they were video games that I played, whether they're based off of comic book characters that I read. You know, it's very much ingrained with my childhood and things that I consumed as a kid growing up. So that was my idea with incorporating those characters into the collection.
I dig it. I dig it. So a small part of you, which is a big, you know, important part of what I think separates art from your average kind of project. And there's some NFT projects out there, let's be honest, that weren't really worried about the art per se, right? Like they weren't out to tell a story with their art or share a piece of themselves with their art. Maybe it was like a functional art to say, you know, let's be a bunch of apes or let's be different types of PFPs. But I like the way you've kind of really individualized each one, and you didn't use a generator, I assume, right? These are all kind of one of ones, kind of done with digital art.
Yeah, so I hand drew them in Procreate. I did reuse some of the layers for like, you know, but they weren't generated like using like a algorithm or AI. Everything that was made by hand, you know, with Procreate.
Very cool, very cool. So if you could kind of hammer down a kind of vision for it, right? Now you said you had kind of learned about the blockchain and you showed your friends your digital art and they said, hey, you should try putting this on the blockchain. You might be able to sell them as NFTs. And then you did it, you know, 6 months, 9 months later. And would you say that you've kind of been learning through the process as well, and you're still kind of like building it out as you go? Or do you have like a really clear kind of mission for what kind of the end goal of the project is?
It's very much been a learn as you go situation. You know, originally, you know, I put them out and I had one collector who picked up, you know, a handful of them in the beginning, and it kind of like really inspired me to push. And then you know, at one point I kind of hit like a plateau where like nothing was moving. You know, I really didn't know how to continue, and then I kind of had really important conversations with you know, some of the people that we know in the space, Kane, Low, Max from Black Brooklyn, and you know, they were able to kind of like help me pivot in a direction where it's like, how can you create value behind these NFTs, right? Like, what can you do to really create excitement around it, right? Like there has to be something more to it than just like a picture, right? You can't just give people CCO rights and say, hey, they can do whatever they want with it, because everybody else is doing that, right? It's kind of like the cookie cutout utility for NFTs. So what separates you from everyone else? And at the time, Jagar and some of the people within the community were working on the Renaissance City plots, and Kane, you know, came to me and he was like, listen, why don't you curate one of these plots? He gave it to me. I didn't buy it. He gifted it to me. He was like, listen, take this plot, you know, curate it, hook it up, and why don't you like token gate it to your NFTs where, you know, everyone that owns one gets access to this plot. And I thought that was genius. I was like, bro, thank you so much. You know, like it really kind of like sparked a whole different, you know, concept for me, because now I'm like, all right, user experience is everything when it comes to NFTs, right?
100%.
So I curated the space. I added the link to the Renaissance City plot as unlockable content with the NFTs. So now when you buy a Skull Hunter, you gain access to this 4-level multimedia gallery. It's curated with all of these dope skulls, some of them that are in the collection, some of them that aren't. So people kind of got like previews to stuff that was coming that, you know, wasn't necessarily out yet. And then I put music videos in there from like songs that I have produced. I have like an instrumental section on like the 3rd tier with like the media section. So, you know, it was very much a hub for everything that I was creating, you know, musically, artistically. And one of the things that I started doing was I started running scavenger hunts in the plot amongst collectors. So, like randomly I would drop in the Discord and say, hey, I hid this picture, this painting inside the plot. The first person that finds it and sends me a screenshot of it, I'll airdrop you a skull. And just kind of creating like user experience, because like the whole premise for Skull Hunters is like, hunting these skulls. How can you
Yeah, I was going to ask about that actually, because I was thinking it kind of gives off this like treasure hunting vibe, or like crystal skulls,
exactly.
hunting for the
Yeah,
crystal
so it's
skulls.
like, so my thing was like, how do you get people involved? So that was one of the ways that we did it. Another way that I started doing it within New York was I have like these stickers with my PFP on them, right?
Nice, nice.
This is the Skull Hunter, official Skull Hunter PFP, right?
That's the logo,
So
yeah.
I've been slapping these stickers all over the city because NFT NYC is right around the corner, So what I want to do is, the first handful of people that find these stickers and can send me a picture and tweet me a picture of those stickers and where they're located, I'm gonna gift, as long as they're not current holders, right? Because this is for like new people coming in. I kind of want to like, incentivize people that aren't necessarily holders to kind of like get involved as well. So that was kind of like my take on it, where it's like, create a user experience, create something that'll get people involved, that'll get people interested, and that will potentially create some sort of what do you call that? Well, interaction, of course, but there's, I'm lost
getting
for
the
word
engagement up, getting the interaction
engagement.
up.
There you go. To get people engaged.
And that was your street team, maybe, or like people that were not necessarily people just spreading your pictures out there. Don't fess up to it. Wasn't you personally. You didn't put those.
Well,
stickers
not me personally, but yeah, I have people out there.
Yeah.
The Skull Hunter team out there.
The Skull Hunters out there representing. That's it. I dig it, man. I can't wait. I'm gonna see if I see him out there while I'm out there for NFT NYC. That's really cool, man. And I dig the treasure hunt side of it. Definitely the token gated option for the metaverse space is amazing. I think that's a utility that has come up in the show here and there, but it's not going away. And there's a lot of conversation about the metaverse right now, right? And how engaging is it? There have been people saying, "Oh, the metaverse is dead." I mean, I think anyone who's got a bit of gaming background knows the metaverse isn't going anywhere and the 3D space isn't going anywhere. But I love the idea of this token gated kind of clubhouse for the skull holders, right? And do you see that as a potential space? Maybe the tech adoption's not quite there, where you would be like meeting up there and collaborating and actually building community in the metaverse, in this token gated clubhouse essentially. Do you see a future where you might be leaning into the metaverse as an actual meeting place and like congregation space, almost like a private club in the digital space? Have you kind of looked at it that way?
Absolutely. Yeah, I do. I think that we're just scratching the surface when it comes to like the metaverse, right? I think that there was a lot of excitement around it in the beginning, because of COVID and because people were kind of like locked in and didn't have a place to go. So it kind of there was a lot of hype around it at the moment. But I also believe that we haven't really seen the full use case when it comes to the metaverse. I think that there's a lot of untapped potential. And like me personally, I think that even conversations like this, like we'll be having in the metaverse, the people, interviews, things like that, a lot of this stuff, education purposes, I think that there's really an untapped resource when it comes to the metaverse. When you look at things like Sims, people were playing Sims for years. People have hours and hours of logged game time, just creating their own simulated neighborhoods and simulated lives. So the metaverse is just kind of like an extension of that, where now other people can add to it. So now, when you look at voxels, when you look at like the map and the plots and how people are looking for particular digital real estate, they want to be in certain locations. I think that says a lot, right? When you look at how the plots surrounding like Snoop Dogg's, plot, sell for more because people want to live in his neighborhood. Like there's a lot of hype around things like that. And I think that at the moment we're just seeing the beginning phases of it. I think that there's still more to come with it. I think incorporating mixed reality with the metaverse is going to be a big thing. When you look at what's happened with the Apple Vision Pro and that, I think that there's a lot more to come that we haven't even seen with the metaverse. And once that hype resurges, I think that we'll start to see a lot more use with it. Um, I also believe that when it comes to anything in Web3, all it takes is a couple of innovations to really spark the interest again. All it takes is, a couple of key things to happen that really innovate to bring people back in. So, we just need more innovators. We need more builders. We need more people that are willing to push the envelope when it comes to creativity and really think outside the box with it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and what you mentioned about the Snoop Dogg plots speaks to Sandbox, right? And Sandbox is an interesting one. In fact, shout out to Tang Poco and a few others from the Decentraland space. They were just doing a little bit of a Sandbox visit, and I feel like Sandbox is only kind of like partially open, and I think that they were hurt a little bit by the speculation conversation and the fact that like you said, a lot of people said, oh well, Snoop Dogg bought this plot, therefore I want to pay however much is required to get plots around him. But I don't know how much Snoop Dogg has really done in the Sandbox and how much being close to his plots actually gives you any added value. But the hope still into the future is that he will be doing more at that plot. And I know he did release some pretty cool wearables or avatars that you can get, little Snoop avatars for the Sandbox, for example. And if you have one, I think it actually works as a token gated option as well for their spot in the Sandbox metaverse. If you own a Snoop avatar, you can go walk into their area. But it's interesting how Sandbox is still kind of hesitated to be like fully open for business, right? Where you have to you have access to certain corners of the space, and then they have these kind of days where they open it up to everybody, but it's only for like a limited time. How do you feel about kind of the speculation in the metaverse conversation? And like, look at other side, right? I think we've got friends who maybe spent too much money buying some plots on other side, and now it's 10 times less than it was at the peak, and you got to feel for people who get rug pulled like that. And like, I mean, I guess there's a lot of people still believe in the project, think it's gonna be worth that much money in the future, but I think most people accept that it's probably never going to be quite that valuable as it was in that like peak speculation moment when it was just getting launched, right? How do you feel about that whole kind of speculation conversation about the metaverse and buying plots of land that don't actually exist yet?
I think that it really it's a use case factor, right? Like what are you trying to build here? What are you trying to do? I know for me, like the reason why I was big on crypto voxels was because of the way it allowed you to integrate all types of different media into what you did, right? Aesthetically, like it's not the prettiest, right? It has a very Minecrafty Roblox kind of feel. It's very blocky, very pixel, but at the same time, it opened up people's creativity to like what can you build within those parameters. I also feel like things like On Cyber and Spatial are free. Those free plots kind of devalued the people's idea of paying for digital space when you can get something like that for free, right? Like why would I pay $1,000 to be in crypto voxels when I can get on cyber for free, right? Or I could be on Spatial for free. But then it's also like, but then you have to work within those confinements of that particular metaverse. So I think if you're looking to build something that's gamified and you're looking to build something that you can actually like run and it's going to be interactive, places like Sandbox, that's the place to be, right? Because that's their strength. If you're looking to kind of like have this big meetup where you can kind of like build out whatever you want and work within your imaginations, I think that crypto voxels is it, right? Because that's kind of like their strength. And then for people that are just looking for a digital gallery experience that aren't really looking to break the bank, that's where you have On Cyber and Spatial. So all of these platforms have their strengths. It's just about the people that are developing in those worlds, finding those strengths to make them more intuitive for people that want to experience that, because I feel like it's very, like, the use case is very much there. It's just, how do we take it to the next level where people are going to want to spend this time in here? Like, I think, like, look at what Oculus did, right? Oculus had, like, all right, here are these goggles, all right, and they kind of like set the tone for it. And then Apple was like, all right, well, how are we going to make this better? How are we going to make this where people aren't going to want to take these things off? How are we going to make this where this is now a kind of living situation? And I think that that's what's going to happen with the metaverse. I think that at the moment, they're kind of like at the Oculus phase, and they have the potential to hit that Apple Pro Vision phase where, like, now, how are we going to make people live in this experience? And I think that that's where we're heading. We just haven't gotten there yet.
1000%. And I think you beautifully laid out the value of those three different kind of metaverse options between voxels and sandbox, and then those free ones like On Cyber or Spatial's another really cool one. And a shout out to On Cyber, because they created this awesome functionality where you can actually buy NFTs of the pre-made 3D builds, and you can only get those like really nice custom 3D builds by buying the NFT of it. If you go to web3warriors.io, you'll see one that we purchased for our collection at Web3 Warriors. It was basically a whole vintage gaming den, like a gamer den in like 1992 kind of, and it's super cool. And we've had all our NFT art up there. So totally, I think what you just mentioned about the different value of the different spaces, and even those that are kind of free and you can definitely set up a gallery for nothing, they have on-chain options. If you pay a little bit more, you get certain perks, and I believe Spatial has some kind of options like that as well. But I do think On Cyber is really clean when it comes to those gallery setups. So shout out to On Cyber for sure. I'd love to chat with their team at some point as well. That's awesome, man. That's really cool. I think you've got a really good view of the metaverse, and the way you broke that down is perfect. I don't think we've had it quite as simply explained as that before, so that's awesome. I know you mentioned a little bit of kind of the treasure hunt side of the collection. Is there any other kind of gamified kind of take that you're doing with the Skull Hunters? Like, is there a way that you're trying to further kind of gamify the project? And is there a like round 2 that you're planning to do like after you've minted out this initial one? Just curious about any other kind of I don't like to say utility, but just thoughts around like you said, boosting the engagement, making it more fun.
Absolutely. So at the moment, I'm working on Skull Hunters 3D, which unlike the first round of Skull Hunters, it's not a PFP collection. It's actually I worked with a digital artist over the last year, and we kind of created these scenes where you see these different skulls with in these different atmospheres, and you see different people engaging with these skulls, whether they're finding them, whether they're discovering them. And the art is actually, I mean, I don't want to like toot my own horn, because it's not me tooting my own horn, because I didn't actually make the art. I kind of sat side by side with this artist, and we kind of, I would give her like concepts and ideas.
Collaboration.
Yeah. And she would build these scenes from scratch. Like, I would just kind of say, you know what, let's put a deep sea diver finding this gigantic skull at the bottom of the ocean floor, and then she would just bring that scene to life. And it was just kind of like really it was really, I learned a lot working with her, because like to see how you can take these concepts and ideas and really bring them to life. And the way that we worked with each other, it was really it was a dope experience, because I had never worked with someone like that before in the setting of me just giving you a direction, and then somebody kind of just it's very much me taking the passenger seat, and I'm used to being in the driver's seat when it comes to a lot of this stuff, so it's like kind of have to just like sit there and navigate while she's like putting everything together. But it was a dope experience. And now with that, we want to roll this stuff out once we mint out. So
Nice.
The whole premise of is skull hunters, is people, the hunters that are finding these skulls in these amazing different settings. And then there's a storytelling aspect behind it too. So with every NFT, when you get the NFT, it'll come with a short story that'll basically give you a description of what it is that you're looking at. So there's a storytelling aspect, there's a digital art component, and then the game plan is to work out an augmented reality aspect where now it owning one of these NFTs will unlock this augmented reality skull where you can take pictures with the skulls, you can pose it, you can create your own 3D skull hunter scenes.
Nice.
And that's one of the things that we're working on. I'm actually working on it with Ebro. Shout out to Ebro.
Shout out
He's
Ebro,
been,
our AR
yeah, shout
expert.
out
He's
to
our
Ebro,
resident
man.
augmented
He
reality
got red.
expert.
Yes, yes. I mean, and that's the power of community, man. Being able to tap in with people that that understand what you're doing, and they can bring your concepts and ideas to life. So, Kane put me in touch with Ebro, and me and Ebro kind of like chopped it up, and I sent him the file for the 3D skull, and he was like, "Yo, like this," and I was like, "Yes, this is perfect. Let's, I'm gonna swap out the file, give you a different one, but this is pretty much what I'm trying to do." And then
Dope.
so the future of that is to potentially what I want to do from there is geotag and geolocate some of these skulls in different places where like now people can open up whatever camera app that is going to run with the augmented reality, and it's almost going to be like a Pokemon Go type of situation where like now they'll be opening up and walking around with their camera until they can find these skulls in these different locations. And then there will be rewards where if you find these skulls, you'll get airdrops, you'll get merch, you'll get VIP access to some of these IRL events that we do. So just kind of once again user experience, engagement, things to get people really psyched about the NFT, where because I remember that Pokemon Go craze, when people
Yeah,
were
it's
just
pretty
going
wild.
nuts. That
Apparently, it's
was
getting a bit of a resurgence right now. Some kids are
oh my
playing it in high school still. It's crazy.
Oh, my daughter still plays it. My
Yeah.
daughter's, every now and then my daughter will ask me if I can like take her outside and she'll just walk around and catch Pokemon in the neighborhood. Like New York did a Pokemon Go experience where you paid to get access to like particular areas in Central Park.
Wow.
And, people were going crazy trying to find a Mewtwo. People were going nuts trying to get a Pikachu. People, like they're these rare Pokemon that, people still have this nostalgic connection to, right? So I saw what Pokemon Go did, and I was like, how can I incorporate something like that in what I'm doing with Skull Hunters and create that engagement factor where people are going to get excited, people are going to interact, people are going to get engaged, and they're going to be rewarded for that engagement. So that's pretty much the next step. We're very much in the early phases of that. So, but the art is ready. And we're actually exploring maybe putting it on different chain, maybe going the Bitcoin route, so but once again, these are all like it's still very early in development, but the art is done. We just finished the art, and that's the direction that we're looking to go to with Skull Hunters 3D.
Amazing, man. Amazing. That's super cool. I can envision like a Skull Hunters app where you've got this AR thing and basically exactly like you just said with Pokemon Go. That's really cool. Has
Yeah.
Ebro talked to you about like over the reality and their kind of AR filter world that they have? Because they have
No,
a kind of treasure hunt aspect already incorporated, and I feel
you mean
like
OVR?
Ebro introduced me to the creators of the actual platform, the co-founders, when we were in Miami, which was amazing. Actually, yeah, I need to follow up again with those guys, but they are very like ears to the ground, like want to connect with community. So I'm sure talk to Ebro about it. You can probably make that connection, and you might even be able to get like integrated on their app to have that kind of Skull Hunters project actually be working on over the reality, because they already have an AR
OVR,
treasure
right?
hunting thing happening. So I'm guessing I could see where they would like to see community buy-in and community based treasure hunting, basically. So I could see that. That'd be really cool. And Over is a pretty cool platform. They're doing a lot of things right. They're very on chain. They're very, it's kind of like a Google Map style, right? Where you can buy the different plots. They sell them in hexes, so hexagons. And then you can buy the hex. And once you own it, you can basically do anything AR wise on that hex. And if you don't already own one where you might want to put a skull, you would just collaborate with the owner of that plot and, you know, be able to put a skull in there. And then maybe, you know, whatever the rewards are, they get like a tiny percentage of it or something like that. But just something to think about, man. It's a really cool option. What you were just mentioning, it makes my mind go in a few different directions, but I could see it. It's definitely the way to go. And I'm noticing on your Skull Hunters page here, you got 38 listed still. So you're down to 38, and maybe one or two of those are resells, but that's pretty impressive. So we gotta sell these out, and AR gaming is the next stage, essentially. And those 3D creations that you were talking about, would those be made in Blender, and are they going to be like one of ones?
So they're not blenders. They're it's like kind of it's a combination of a stock 3D file that she tweaked and altered. So I actually have a physical of the. So if you can see here,
nice. You 3D printed that?
Yeah. Well, no, this one isn't 3D printed. This one is 3D printed. Here we go. So this is
nice.
This is the same file, and so what we did was she had the stock image, and then she just made some alterations to it to kind of give it a little more detail, fine tune it, you know, tweak it up. So this is the file, and this is what they would see in an augmented reality, but just on a grander scale. So
that's super
and
cool.
that's kind of like what we're doing. And you know, even with that, you know, like just doing giveaways. I don't know if I mentioned this, but like for the last over a year now, we were doing physical giveaways with the NFTs as well. So like I did monthly raffles, and every month I gave away a different physical skull to a new collector. So, you know, like let's say if there were 7 collectors in the month of April, we would use a Twitter picker and kind of just randomly select one holder to gift a physical NFT to. So this was the last one. Actually, I have to give this to Mix from the Dirty Kumquats, but this is let me see, it melted onto, you know, so it's like a skull that's melted.
Wow.
That's you know,
pretty cool.
So yeah, man, you know, like I hand paint these things. I do like different designs with them. This is another one. This one was 3D printed. I'm actually still working on this one, but as you can see, it's has like all of these drips on it.
Yeah.
And
looks like it's glazed. It looks like a glazed donut.
Yeah, well, I used resin to kind of like create it. I still have to paint it, so this is like very, you know, in the works. But you know, just trying to have that tangible aspect to the NFTs as well, right? Where like your NFT doesn't just unlock access to like a digital space, you also get something physical, something that you can hold, something that you can collect. You know, as you can see, I'm a huge collector, so I'm very bullish on you know, giving collectibles away and just having stuff that you can hold and see and show off, right? Like some people are like, well, look at my skull collection.
Yeah.
You know, and shout out to Mix. You know, Mix is one of these guys where he'll kind of like look at my analytics on OpenSea. So he'll say, hey, nobody bought a skull this month. I'm gonna buy one so that way I could win the physical for this month. And so
Smart
Mix is sitting on yeah, you know, so Mix is sitting on like six or 7 physicals, because, you know, when there have been months that were slow, you know, he'll pick up a couple of pieces and you know, throw himself into the raffle. So, you know, it's and having collectors that are involved like that, to me, is humbling, right? Because once again, you know, I started this as very much a learn as I go process, and I've been able to learn so much, you know, through my interactions with my collectors, through you know, the people within our community, through watching other people thrive here. You know, shout out to Jagar, shout out to Kane, shout out to Ebro, shout out to Lo, shout out to you. You know, through paying attention to you guys and seeing how you guys navigate through the space, you guys have actually like really shaped and molded me to kind of like work in a way where, it's like you said, it's ethics over profits. It's community before everything. And I can't fold or rug or do any weird shit because, at the end of the day, I feel like my reputation and my community is worth more than a couple of dollars.
No
So
doubt.
and that's the neighborhood jewelry blockchain gospel way.
That's
So
it. That's it. That's
shout
the
out to the
philosophy we're here
community.
for. Ethics over
Yeah,
profits. Not all money is good money. Hard
exactly.
lessons
Yes.
in this crypto space, but necessary lessons for sure. So, are you into crypto at all from like a kind of investor perspective? Have you been getting
Yes.
more into crypto more broadly because of your experiences with the blockchain project? Just curious.
I actually I was investing in ETH and other cryptos before I got into NFTs. So that kind of gave me a foundational understanding of Web3, right? Like I always understood like protect your seed phrase, not your keys, not your coin, wallet hygiene, transaction etiquette, don't click links. This was all stuff that I understood before
Important
getting.
fundamentals.
Yeah, but but it's funny because in dealing in NFTs, I I used to believe that everybody that came into NFTs through the direction of crypto, right? And then
Mm.
as time goes on, I actually realized that it's very much the opposite. There are a lot of people that are into NFTs that know very little about crypto.
Yep.
They don't understand the space. They don't understand, certain practices that we understand. So that kind of like baffled me, right? Because I'm like, wait, you don't know about crypto, like how don't you know about that? Just because I came through those channels, so it was my understanding that most people did too. And then when you get here and you start to talk to people and you realize that a lot of people really, they get their coin and they cash out. They're not looking to leave it in crypto. They're not looking to try to, like, for me, I did more business in the bear market than I did during the bull markets. So
That's
it
what's
was
up.
nothing for me to leave that coin in there and watch it go up, because I'm sitting there like a proud dad watching my baby get bigger and bigger. I'm like, yeah,
Let's
let's
go.
go. Like,
That's the
my
way to look
my
at it.
all-time highs are like first steps. So I'm like, yes, let's go. So
Nice.
I'm very much bullish on crypto. I especially blockchain technology. Like the idea of transparency is important to me, right? Like I look at the physical art world, right? And I look at how many middlemen are there, right? I look at, you have authenticators, you have curators, you have all of these people that profit off of artists, right? That do very little when it comes to creating art, but they eat off of artists, right? So then you have like a blockchain where it's like now nothing has to be authenticated because once it's on chain, it's there,
Mhm.
right? You have transparency where now I can't buy I can buy a piece of art for $1,000, tell you I paid 300, or tell you I paid 3,000 for it, give me 5,000, and
Right.
now I'm up 4,000 because I just finessed you.
Right.
You can't do that on chain. Everything is transparent. Like now who sold it, how much they sold it for, who created it, when it was created. You get to see the entire history of this NFT on this digital ledger. Like that, to me, like that's powerful, right? Because like information is power. And if you
100%.
learn how to read this blockchain, now you're not going to get finessed, or you're less likely to be
Yeah.
finessed.
Yeah, there's still people getting finesse, that's for sure.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah, yeah. That's
definitely
why
less likely.
I had to
If you
correct
know
real
how to do
quick.
your research, you can avoid it, for sure.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. And I hadn't thought about that side of things as far as increasing the amount and lying about how much you bought it for, but that makes sense for sure. And then
People
also
do it
there's the
every day.
conversation around secondary sales, right? And actually getting a piece of the secondary sales for the original creator. How do you feel about that kind of side of it? I know there's been certain market marketplaces that have made that more complicated or not even possible, and other marketplaces that fully embrace kind of getting a percentage on the secondary sales and being able to guarantee royalties essentially to the original creator. I think that was a big part of the narrative in 2021 with a lot of the artists coming into the space, right? Since then, there seems to be like some people have differing perspectives on it. What are your thoughts on that, kind of using the smart contract to guarantee a certain percentage of royalties on the secondary sales of your art?
I think royalties are you can't enforce royalties, even in the smart contract. You can try to, but if people want to, like, on a peer-to-peer basis, right? If I say, hey, I'll send you an NFT and you just send me the crypto, and we don't make it an on-chain transaction, as long as there's trust between me and you, we can do that. I can price it accordingly, where like now you don't have to pay the royalty. So but I do think that artists should get royalties. They should, and I think that platforms should enforce it, especially if it's in the contract. If it's in the contract, then it should be enforced. It should be backed by the platform, because a lot of platforms have benefited from this method of transaction, right? Where it's like, oh well, look, if you come here, you'll get royalties. So when you look at platforms like OpenSea that have caught like a huge ton of backlash for not paying royalties, they've literally built their brand and made their money on the backs of artists. They should pay royalties, I believe, but once again, this is very much a peer-to-peer place where if I choose to, do an off-chain transaction with you, like no one would be the wiser, and it would just look like I sent you an NFT.
Yeah.
So it's very much like it's a double-edged sword. But overall, I do think that artists should be paid royalties, right? Like, artists have always been have been like cut out of particular opportunities. They've always kind of got the short end of the stick when it came to like monetarily. So why not? They're the creators. This entire ecosystem revolves around artists. If it wasn't for the artists, life would be very bland. If it wasn't for the musicians, life would be very quiet and boring.
Exactly.
So we should pay homage and pay royalties to the creators, whether artistically, whether musically. Even with musicians have gotten the short end of the stick when it comes to royalties and, streams and what they've done with the music industry since '09. So I very much believe that they should receive royalties. They should be able to set whatever price they want. And if you appreciate artists and you appreciate what they do, then you should support them. And however it is, whether it's through royalties, whether it's through whatever price point they set, artists have been subjugated to a lot of manipulation. And at this point, it's very much the artist's time, especially with blockchain.
1000%. It's about knowing your value, not allowing yourself to be undervalued. But the goal for the tech is also to ensure that that value is realized into the future, and I definitely agree with everything you're saying. Ultimately, there are going to be, techie ways to get around paying royalties if you really want to. But I think many of us like that side of the technology and don't mind paying royalties. It's usually a fairly small amount of what you would be getting in the sale, right? So it just comes back to, I think, the speculators and the traders and those who are really penny pinching and trying to make every last dollar. It's been an interesting space. How do you feel about the market overall? Do you think that we're ever going to kind of reach those 2021 2022 highs, that kind of level of hype, even as the bull market comes back around? I think there's it's an interesting graphic. Shout out to Bongdo. He made a really cool graphic for the Red Lion Gazette. I'm going to bring it up on the screen quick. Then he shows how there's the bull market kind of happening, a lot of people making money on these shitcoin drops, or altcoins I should say, and also other aspects of crypto. But a lot of the NFT people are still kind of hurting, still waiting for the NFTs to take off. So his graphic shows like one side of the crypto space just partying and then loving the gains, and then the other side with the artists still kind of struggling, still hoping for NFTs to kind of take off, so just curious about your thoughts on that, and how you see the space kind of evolving this year and into the future.
I think it depends on what side of NFTs you're on, right? I've always felt like there's two sides to NFTs. You have the collector side of it, and then you have like the degen side of it. So I feel like for degens that are looking to just like PFP flip, they might not have the same time that they had in 2021. I feel like that was a bubble in itself. It was a era that was short lived, and if you were there and you made money on it, kudos to you. And then I feel like there's the collector side where there are artists that aren't, really doing the degen shit where you look at artists like Sabet, you look at artists like Betty Blockchain, you look at people like the Rare Skrilla and Kane and the stuff that they're doing, and they're still very much thriving. They're selling NFTs. They're they have their community, they have people that appreciate what they do, and they still collect. Like me, I didn't get into NFTs to buy and sell and make profits. Like I'm very much a collector. Like I hold NFTs. I buy the stuff that I like, and it'll sit in my wallet. If at some point I need to liquidate, I mean, like every asset, sometimes you take a loss, sometimes you got to sell something for less than you got it for. But the what you lose in profit, was the time that you got to spend with it, right? Like, like for me, if I had to liquidate some of these physical pieces that I collected, if I sold them for less than what I got them for, I still know that I lived with these pieces for, an untold amount of time, and that time is valuable, right? The time that I spent with those assets is valuable. So, is that aspect, is that part of the space going to come back? I don't think that the PFP flipping and the degen side of it is going to be what it was in 2021. I think that at this point we have a lot more educated consumers, a lot more people that are aware in the space. There's going to be a lot less easy rug pulls, that whole like whitelist and get in early and flip, like at this point it worked back then because everybody was like, NFTs were highly speculative. A lot of people weren't really educated on the space, where now we have a lot more educated consumers. People have been burned, people have been rugged, people have been robbed, people have been scammed. Now people are they're very cautious on where they put their coin. And I think that now, because of that, there will be a lot less impulsive NFT buying, a lot less impulsive PFP flipping, and things of that nature. And now people are going to collect NFTs based off of the value that they have, whether it's for the artist, whether it's for the community, whether it's for utility. I think that that's where the value of NFTs are. I always felt like PFP flipping was just, that shit is like Forex trading, or like
penny stocks, basically.
Penny stocks, yeah, or even like shit coining, altcoining, or however you want to look at it. Like you have people that were in crypto that looked at people that flipped altcoins like, ew. Because they're like, why are you even wasting your time with that? And that's how I feel like the people that really collected NFTs and believed in NFTs felt about people that were PFP flipping, because there's a lot of hype around, community, until it's time to like take profits. And then you got people that, they sell shame you, like, I thought you were all about the community, how you gonna sell? And and it's just like, it became like a vicious cycle that you kind of just saw people like rinse and repeat. So I feel like that was like a very long answer to a short question.
No, that was a great answer. I think it sums up the space very well. I will say I was a little optimistic as far as into the future. I'm worried, and I think that it's possible another bull market, and maybe it'll be the Solana space being hit more so than the Ethereum, because in Ethereum, there's a lot of costs associated with it that I don't agree anyone will ever stomach again like we did in 2021, because that was like insane when I look back at the amount of gas we all just like accepted and paid to mint stuff. But Solana did solve at least that piece of the puzzle for the most part, and they do seem to have Solana, a pretty big
Tezos.
Well, Tezos has less of the PFP side of things, I think, but
that's true. Yeah.
Solana's really gone heavily kind of into the degen side, and I guess my cynical viewpoint is that the bull market potentially brings in a whole new rush of people that were just as ignorant as we were back in 2021, and are just as kind of like wanting quick money as many of us were back in 2021, right? And so I think that potential for all the same shenanigans that we saw before to kind of reemerge is definitely still there. But to your point, there's definitely a higher level of education, and I think more of us who are here for the technology, who are here for the genuine creator economy that's being built out here, and being able to support other creators and find new audiences for your own projects. Yeah, but really great points that you raised there, I think, and I agree, and I hope that that is the evolution that we are witnessing in the industry for sure, and I think it's very, very possible that we come to that. I'm just curious, you had mentioned briefly like whether your next project might look at other chains. I know you invested in Ethereum even before dropping NFTs on it. Do you have thoughts towards other chains? Have you looked at what's happening in the kind of Bitcoin ordinal space? I know a lot of our friends are making some good bank over there. So how are you feeling about kind of other chain options, and have you looked at that at all?
I have. I'm definitely being peer pressured to come over to the Bitcoin side.
You got to make some pixelated skulls, man. Drop them on Bitcoin, man.
So I'm definitely being, they're pushing. They're like, yo, come to Bitcoin, come to Bitcoin. So I'm definitely entertaining that thought. With ordinals. I've been looking into bitmaps because of Jagar. Jagar's like, yo, check it out.
Ambassador.
Yeah, yo, listen, and but like in a sense, I very much like I see what he's talking about. Like when they, not to like sound like a Debbie Downer, but like you said, there is a lot of cost that comes with Bitcoin. There's a lot, with Ethereum, like the Ethereum transactions, the gas fees, it's really are people gonna bounce back from this? Are people gonna see, like the purpose and the point of spending this much money, just to acquire things? I still collect Ethereum NFTs, but I very much kind of like am strategic with when I buy NFTs. Like there's times where that 3 a.m. alarm is set because I'm like, all right, let me see what gas is gonna be like in the middle of the night when when it's at its lowest, and it's kind of it's tempting to look at other chains and other options because that I'm very much like blockchain agnostic. I feel like that there is potential on all chains, right? It's just about finding your ecosystem. So like what I've told the people that have encouraged me to come over to Bitcoin is that before putting anything anywhere, I always have to engage with the ecosystem. Like I wouldn't just put an NFT on a chain without connecting with the people that do business on that chain, right? And I kind of look at it like, before you open a store, you got to know what neighborhood you're in. You got to know the people that are in that neighborhood, right? So that's very much my thought process when going to other chains. Like am I aligned with the energy on that chain? Like you were talking about earlier with Tezos, like you can't, not that you can't put PFPs on Tezos, but the Tezos community is very much one where they're more focused on the art than the degen side of it. There's a bigger,
and if you want to, like I think there's one or two kind of like PFP-esque projects, like one's the Tezards, for example. I think their floor price is like 199 Tez now, so you can do it, but you really have to be coming from the core community. Like they have to know you have to be like a known quantity in the space if you're gonna pull off something like that.
And that's how I feel about going to any chain, right? Where it's like I need to understand the ecosystem. I need to be connected with the players. I need to know the people that are there, because I think it's very disingenuous to just go to a chain because you see that there's motion there, right? It's like, oh well,
let me get that bag over there.
Ordinals are selling. I need to make an ordinal, and it's like you come off very transactional. And for me, it's like that's the last thing that I'm trying to do. I don't want to come off as like somebody that's just looking to make money. Although like that's very much the nature of business, right? Like the business is to make money, but at the same time, it's how you make it, right? And how you look making it. You don't want to look like a fucking thirsty McThirstington, over here.
Hey, you can't knock the hustle, man. Just do your thing.
I got these NFTs. Want to buy an NFT? Like, so you know,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
very
It's a
much
fine
am
line. It's a
concerned
fine
with.
line to walk there.
Yeah, yeah,
I
exactly.
feel
You
you. I
know,
feel you. Awesome. Awesome. Well, it's been a really amazing conversation. I think we've touched on some really good nuggets for all the listeners and those out there. If anyone has any thoughts or questions in the chats, now's your time as we wind down here to ask them. I got a couple final questions here. I know we connected at the Blockchain Futurist event in Toronto in
yeah,
real life. Obviously, I had known you for a couple years prior to that already, but it was cool to see you in person. And I saw on your Instagram that you had actually been acknowledged as a kind of partner, community partner, I believe, and you got a little discount for your community, so that was pretty cool.
yeah. Yes.
And you know, being a New Yorker, being able to come up to Toronto and connect there, that's what it's all about. You know, the global community. How important do you think it is to be at events like Blockchain Futurist and to really be like connecting and showing the brand IRL at these kind of Web3 events?
I very much see the value in IRL events, right? I think it's important to connect with the people that are showing up to these events and show face. Um, I also feel like people want to get familiar with the people that are behind these collections and these projects and these art. I think it's important to make sure that people's online energy matches their IRL energy. You know, because we have a lot of good actors that get on these platforms and you know they're faceless, but you know you hear their voices and they sound great and they play these you know YouTube characters was like hey guys and you know they have this chipper upper demeanor, but you know it's like how personable are you, you know, like
Mm.
and when you go to these events and when you actually like look these people in the eye and you see their posture, you know, and that's to me that's like the that's the sign for it, because I mean I don't know if you remember, I remember meeting you at NFT NYC before the
Right,
Futurist
that's
conference,
true. Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
outside the conference, and it was cool because it was kind of like I think I was wearing like an immutable shirt. You were like, "Oh, are you working with immutable?" And I'm like, "No, they just gave it to me here." And, you know, like,
Yeah,
and I'm just like, "Yeah, you know, it was cold outside. I just threw the sweater on." Like,
right.
yeah, you know, but you know, just having these conversations where you see people, you see the people that you speak to, and you make sure that they are who they say they are, and that you know that they're not just playing a character or a role, you know, they're not cosplaying, you know, the NFT ethical guy, and they're actually these people, you know. That's why, you know, even like showing up to the event that we did that you guys did in Brooklyn, right? Like
Mhm.
where I got to meet Low, where I got to meet
Right, that was
Ebro, I got
amazing.
to
Yeah.
meet Earplug, I got to meet um shit, there were so many people that were there, but like these were
Andres, Metadre.
Andres, Dr. Lemmy, you know,
Yeah,
like,
Pilar,
you know,
Dr.
when
Lemney, you know? Yeah.
yeah, you know, when you see these people that you hear speak all the time, right? And you kind of really resonate with these thoughts and these ideas, and then you get to meet them and you realize that these are very much the same people that you've been speaking to, right? The energy lines up, you know, that connection is there, and it's not like they're just this person that's saying everything that sounds good, but they're not actually those people. You
Mm.
know, that's important. And I think that that's what these events actually like give you outside of, you know, the outside of like the open bars and the big parties and the elaborate like you know setups and all of that. I think that the real value is when you connect with the people that you've been speaking to and you meet the people behind the PFPs and the people behind the spaces, and it just further solidifies those connections and those relationships, right? You know, like sitting outside in front of the Javits Center with Low and just kind of like shooting the shit and smoking the J and talking shit
No
and
doubt.
seeing how it's like this is very much the same person who I've been talking to for years. That you know, like his energy is very much the same way it is. You know, meeting Natalie, meeting you know everybody that you know I was blessed to meet this time around because I feel like the NFT NYC before that, I was like so busy hitting events and satellite parties that I really didn't, you know, I was making new connections, but I didn't get the opportunity to really connect with the people who I had spent all this time talking to. And last NFT NYC, I was actually able to connect with a lot more of the people that, you know, that we engage with, you know, on an almost day. I mean, shit, at one point we were talking every
It was
day,
daily at one point for
every
sure.
day, bro. Every day we were on Clubhouse. Every day we were on
Yeah.
Twitter Spaces. Every day we were spending hours in the rooms. I would come home, go to sleep, wake up, and the room was still open. And I'm like, how the fuck are these guys still doing this? You know, so it's I think that that's the power of these events, right? It's less about the social aspect and more about connecting and making those connections and solidifying relationships that have already kind of been set.
Yeah, matching the vibe IRL, right? And yeah, I mean,
Absolutely.
it makes you realize how much the rest of it is real. You know, when you realize you're actually hanging out with these people, actually having fun, and it's all the same kind of vibe. And we're still talking the technology. We're still, helping each other, collaborating, brainstorming, ideating, all that fun stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's what it's about. And from a broader perspective of promotion, like you're saying, it's not necessarily like the be all and end all. Like you wouldn't necessarily justify, thousands of dollars being spent to attend these events just for the sake of hoping to get some promotional value out of it. It is much more about kind of the network and the person to person connections that you make, right?
Yes.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
And returning to that community building concept, as we wind down here, how have you kind of how has your experience been looking at the community building side? Because I know you were doing art, you were doing a lot of this stuff prior, right? But would you say that your NFT project mostly reached out to like a new community, or did you actually have people who supported you kind of prior to NFTs enter NFTs to support you and buy some of your art? Is there a mix, or is it mostly like brand new community, kind of on-chain community?
For the most part, it's been on-chain community. I've had a couple of friends that have got into NFTs because they wanted to support me,
Nice.
And my approach with that was always like, take your time, learn about what's happening here first. Like, don't just jump in because you want to support me, right? Because the
Mhm.
last thing I want to do is be the reason why somebody got involved in something, didn't understand it, and then potentially got like wrecked and robbed, right? So my direction with them is my direction with anybody, right? Like, know what you're getting into before you buy into anything. But for the most part, a lot of the community building that's come from my NFTs have been new people, have been people that I've met within the space, have been people that have been onboarded through communities that we've been a part of. And even my first collector, right? Like, short story, the first person that bought NFTs from me, he was like, I met this guy on Clubhouse. He heard me talking about NFTs in a hip hop room.
Mhm.
And he was like, man, like, I really love the way you talk about this. You're really passionate. I would like to support. I want to buy 50 of your NFTs. And I was like, 50, that's like, that's a lot of NFTs, man. He's like, yeah, man. He goes, I'm gonna sell you the money and you can just email me the NFTs. And I'm like, whoa, whoa,
That's not how
whoa.
this works,
Uh,
homie.
that's not how this works. And I was like, yo, do me a favor. Don't ever repeat that to anybody regarding NFTs. And took the time to onboard this man. And, he didn't buy 50, because gas fees were freaking crazy back then, but he bought like 16 pieces. Like
Damn.
my first collector bought 16 pieces from me. And he was like, yo, and appreciated the fact that I was honest with him, that I didn't take advantage of him, that I didn't and to me, it was like, yeah, I could have
Could have
charged
finessed
them.
him quick.
I could have finessed him. Hell yeah, I could have finessed him. Listen, like, but to me, it's like, yo, my reputation, being able to be in the space and not have to worry about somebody coming into a room and be like, yeah, this motherfucker robbed me. Like that, that's more important to me. It's always like, to me, it's always been about integrity. It's always been about my reputation. Like you said, like we say, all money ain't good money. And to me, it's like, I think about, I've been finessed. I've hit bad links. My wallet's been drained. I got fucked a couple of times.
Damn.
I think about that, and I think about, like, I would never want to make someone else feel the way I felt when I saw like my wallet got hit for $600 and I lost ETH, and I was like,
Yeah.
this was, this was when ETH was like on its way down, because it was worth more before. So
Mm.
like, and to me, that's a drop in the bucket compared to like what I've gained in the space. I've actually gained more than I've lost. Not just financially, but like with social equity, with the people, with making those connections, with being someone that's trusted in the space where people, that I've spoken NFT Philly. I did a small event at I did like a small panel at the Futurist event. I did NFT remote events at NFT NYC. I've done onboarding seminars in Jersey and in New York. I've
Nice.
spoken Crypto Mondays. So just being a person that people kind of like look to in the space means more to me than whatever small money I could make finessing people.
No
Like to
doubt.
me, it's not worth it.
Yeah, long-term integrity is not. You can't buy that, right? You can't buy that
Yeah,
reputation back
my
if you lose
integrity is
it,
not
man.
for sale.
That's it. That's it. That's it. I respect it, man. It's amazing. Amazing. Really key nuggets for everyone here, I think. So what is next for yourself in general? Like, what are you kind of most excited about in 2024? You've dropped a bit about the AR, which is really exciting, and the 3D assets and all that. Is there anything kind of around the corner that you really want to highlight or that you're most excited about kind of this year and into the future?
I'm definitely looking into doing more music NFTs. I definitely want to put more of my music on chain and explore that as well. I'm
Cool.
definitely looking forward to rolling out Skull Hunters 3D and more events. Being able to connect with the community. Just doing more IRL stuff. The last event that we did was in October. I did a 2-year Skull Hunter anniversary party where shout out to Three Light Gallery. They gave us the gallery for the night. We had this nice little plush gallery in Dumbo, Brooklyn, and I was able to get a lot of my New York collectors out there, and we just opened the doors to people that were Web3 native from New York, and just kind of getting people together. And I think that that's important too, right? Like getting people that you know that we hope that we talk to on a regular together in the same room, right, where
No
people
doubt.
can actually connect, they can network. I feel like relationships are forged, ideas are put together, things come from those conversations. So being a person that's kind of like the nucleus that can bring people together, I think that's important, because we need more people that are dot connectors. And not that I'm like connecting the dots, but the dots are being connected within those spaces. And just being
Oh,
in
for
a
sure.
position to create those spaces is important. So I definitely want to do more IRL stuff as well.
That's amazing. Yeah, we're trying to build out something like that here in Winnipeg, where I'm at in central Canada. Not as much of active community, so you got to kind of start somewhere, right? And what's it like
Yeah.
in New York? So you're saying you got a lot of Web3 natives in the space. Obviously, NFT.NYC is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, kind of NFT gathering globally. What's it like? Kind of, you have annual events now with Skull Hunters, right? So how has the community helped you in New York, and how do you think it's helping you kind of being located in New York and having that option to actually have a live event and have people show up? Because I think most places in the world, frankly, when you try to put on an NFT or Web3 event, you're lucky if you get like 5 to 10 people.
Um, I think that for me, it's it's easy because I'm very much in the scene. Like I'll go to crypto meetups. And I travel for them too. I mean, yeah, as I
Yeah,
came to
met you in
Canada.
Toronto for
I
sure.
went to Philly. I'm always Jersey, New York, both sides of it. So I think that with New York, it's just it's a hub. You have the Polygon office over here. You have Crypto Mondays, which was a big a big Web3 community. They were operating weekly. So I was very present in like places like that where you had Empire DAO. You have a lot of these Web3 galleries that are popping up throughout the city. So
Nice.
just attending these places and making connections, it definitely helps. Being a person that I like to network and go to events. So because that's just something that I've always kind of done, even before Web3 with music. Um,
Nice.
it just kind of like helps when you're like that person that enjoys connecting with people. So I've always just kind of taken an approach to, if I see something that's going on, I try to show up. I try to make connections with the people that are doing the same things that I'm doing, and continue to build a rapport. shout out to like Pigeons in New York. That's another collection that I was able to connect with.
Nice.
I've bought into their project, they bought into my project. We share community members, and like they same thing. They're constantly doing events, different places. So whenever they're doing something, they reach out to me. Whenever I'm doing something, I reach out to them. And just having that transparency amongst different communities helps. Like, because then you can support and show love. Shout out to Metadre. He's another one that he's always doing events in the city. So
No doubt.
he's always reaching out as well. Sometimes I can make it, sometimes I can't.
Mhm.
But I always try to make an effort to show up when I know that something is happening in this realm, because these are potential community members. These are potential collaborators and partners. The artist that I did my 3D collection with was an artist that I met doing a panel in the Bronx. It was just a shout out to Bronx Crypto and NFT Cafe Club.
Nice.
Those were small communities in the city that were doing events, asked me to come and speak on the Skull Hunters and what I was doing over there. And I was able to meet other NFT artists that I inadvertently ended up collaborating with. So I think just putting yourself out there and just being at these places creates opportunity. So and me knowing that, I just try to put myself out there. I try to like leave myself available to find myself in these situations where networking is key.
That's amazing, man. Yeah, having that community of Web3 natives locally have clearly helped you then, because even just that one 3D builder and being able to collaborate with them, that's what it's all about, So I think that's why we keep building out. And those who are in corners of the world where maybe they don't have much NFT activity happening, take the initiative and build it out, because you got to start somewhere, and shout out to On-Chain Manitoba and the group of us that we're building, and shout out to Metadre for sure. He's really focused on that combination of the metaverse and the real events and the NFT galleries and really mashing it all together. Another shout out to the event on March 26th going down in NYC at Sour Mouse with Metamix and Vita TV and Decentraland Brazil. It's going to be amazing. Reach out to me or reach out to Metadre if you need tickets for that. If you're in the NYC area, we can definitely help you out. It's a really exciting one. I'm really happy for you, man. With the music NFT drop, last question, where do you plan to drop it? And do you have any like preference as far as the different music NFT platforms that are out there? I mean, I've heard criticisms of Sound.xyz and the way they're monetizing, but as far as like the way the player works and the way you can just straight up buy NFTs right from the musician that you like, I seem to like it, but I've heard criticisms of it. So I'm just curious if you had a platform you're specifically kind of leaning towards, or if you plan to just drop it as like a straight NFT that people, claim on Manifold or something. Just curious when looking at music.
I think that any NFT platform can be a music NFT platform, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So, and with the way that I plan on rolling out the NFTs, because they're not just like music and a JPEG, I don't think that Sound XYZ would be like the place to go for me per se. I have nothing against Sound XYZ. I think they have a good ecosystem and a good they have a good community. The people that are there, they tend to support each other. They tend to kind of like connect with each other and show love. I haven't dropped anything on Sounds. I did put some stuff out on Emanate, RIP Emanate.
Yeah.
But that's as far as I've gone with like NFT music platforms specifically. But I think that if I did roll, it would probably be like a Manifold, Claimable, something like that.
Cool.
Just to kind of like keep it consistent with the previous drop.
Yeah, and you have your real on-chain ownership, and you have a little bit more abilities as far as airdrops around it, and
Yes.
clear line of sight towards the data and all the funds, most importantly. No middle people between you and your wallet. So
Yes.
Cool, man. That's cool. I was just curious what angle you were planning to take there. All right, well, I'm not seeing any more questions in the chat. Again, thank you so much, One, for this interview. I know you got to get back to your family there, and I'm going to be watching, looking forward to the 3D skulls and the AR skulls, and just really impressed with everything you're building out around the Skull Hunters project. Any final words before we wrap?
Nah, man. Listen, it's been great. Thank you for your time again. I appreciate you guys for having me. Shout out to the Web3 Warriors. Shout out to you. And yeah, man, I'll be seeing you in New York.
Awesome, man. We'll be seeing you there. Everyone in the chat, thank you for joining us. Do sign the guest book at the Web3 Warriors headquarters in the Voxels metaverse. Also, check out our NFT gallery at web3warriors.io. And until next time, next week, we'll catch you in the metaverse. Peace out.